Well, I want to talk about your year so far. I want to dive deep into we're at the 50-yard line. What are we learning this year?
Well, of course, in dental practice, in the dental practice industry and helping people facilitate sales and purchasing practices, things are always going to change and go up and down, depending on whatever year you're in. Obviously, like COVID, everything stopped. The COVID year, everything stopped. And then everything bounced back really quickly. This year in particular, though, over the last couple of years, I've seen this happen, and this year in particular, I think that it's more a bigger deal for dental practices. More dental practices are veering towards not participating with PPOs. I think they're looking at more of a fee for service. They're doing this because the reimbursement rates, so everything affects, everything else. So you have employment issues with people that are coming in and demanding very high wages. So you have, hygienists coming in demanding higher hourly rates. The insurance companies are not keeping up with those trends. So they're still reimbursing at their normal contracted rates. And so the dentist is actually losing money. The dental practice owner is actually losing money. So a lot more you'll see, especially this year I've seen a lot of practices ditching PPOs and going towards more fee for service so that they can be in charge of what their fees are, so that they can still have that profit margin.
So
Now,
you're seeing dentists go away from that
yes,
model.
a lot of dentists are moving away from that. They're moving away from PPOs and they're doing more fee for service, more, payment upfront for services, or they'll do their own like little boutique. Well, they'll do like a subscription where you pay per month and then you have a procedure, or they have prepaids where you prepay for services. If you have a huge, case that you have to, the dentist has a huge case if they sold somebody, like if they're doing full mouth reconstruction or whatever construction, whatever, and they have to pay thousands upon thousands of dollars. Sometimes what happens is the dentist's office will put them on a payment plan. They make these payments up to a certain percentage, and then they get the procedure. They can pay after the difference, or they have to pay for the whole thing up front. So when we see these dental practice acquisitions, a lot of times too, there's a lot of prepaids that are on the books that are showing up as AR, things like that. So
So what else do you see, looking ahead? What else have you taken away from this year, if
well,
anything?
so two, a lot of dentists, they want to sell their practices within a certain period of time.
Hmm.
And a lot of times they will come to us and they'll get a valuation and they'll say, okay, list my practice and I want it sold within this period of time. A lot of times what happens is like during this period, which is spring into summer, there's buyers and there's sellers, and it's the mid-year, and so people are like, okay, I'm good with purchasing or I'm good with selling at this point. But then there's a couple of things to consider too with buying a practice and selling a practice, because now we're in the mid-year of a tax year. There's the money that you have received as income, and then you could possibly have a capital gains issue selling mid-year as well. Same with the end of the year. A lot of people, either buyers want to buy before the end of the year and then sellers don't. They want to wait until like the beginning of the next year, because then it influences
Hmm.
taxes. And
Hmm.
Eric could probably speak a lot more on that, but that's the other thing is it kind of like the beginning of the year, it's really a rush, 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 and then it starts to taper off a little bit. So people who want to sell their practices, just understand that it's probably going to be a little bit, yes, we do know the market and we do know people that are interested in purchasing practices. However, it's not going to be like instantaneous where, you're going to list it and then there's going to be a ton of people interested at the moment. Just because it is mid-year and people are still signing their associate agreements with, where they're at. They're renewing stuff like that. Most of the buyers that I've dealt with in the last few months, all of their contracts end in the summer. So they either have to make a choice, either buy a practice or sign another 12-month contract where they're at. So yeah, so that sellers have to think about that as well.
Not to throw a curveball at you, but I did speak to a dentist and he was asking me about mortgage rates. And I don't know, maybe Anthony would be the one to have on this call, but he was asking if people were still buying practices now or getting valuations, for example, because interest rates are so high. What are yours or Rachel's thoughts on that?
Well, it just depends. I mean, right now,
It just depends.
everyone's complaining about interest rates, but you talk to like one of my clients, he's an older man and he a wonderful guy, and he remembers when interest rates were like 17%. I don't know, when were they? Like in the 90s or something like that? And I mean, or maybe
Jeez.
even higher. I
Gosh.
there's a website you could go to see the history of interest, and like 20 years ago, it was probably 20 or 30 years ago that interest rates were like extremely high and people were still buying things. So I think that
No,
yes,
so,
people
yeah,
should be
about that.
mindful of interest rates. They should be mindful of interest rates, obviously. But it shouldn't deter you from, becoming a business owner.
I was just gonna say, I pulled up some, with Google here, but it says in October 1981, interest rates reached their highest point in modern history, with the average 30-year mortgage rate reaching 18.63%. This was almost 5 times the annual rate in 2019. However, rates gradually cooled as the decade progressed, and by March 1985, the average rate was around 13%. By the end of the decade, rates had fallen below 10%. So I just wanted to throw that in as illustration that
Yeah. So
you know,
yes.
it's been
So
really high.
it's been really, really high, higher than it is right now. I mean, should that deter you from, living your dream and wanting to buy a practice? I mean, it's really up to you. It depends. But I don't think it should, that interest rates in it of itself should be the deterring factor of you moving forward on purchasing a practice. Do you see a lot more dental practices that are selling the practice and the real estate? They are, selling both, and there was a time that they wouldn't do that. They would just sell the dental practice and then they would wait a year or two and then sell the real estate to the dentist. Because in like a couple of years ago, a lot more dentists could only really finance just a practice. Well, now there's a lot more single dentists that are able to finance the practice and the real estate. And a lot of them are going through SBA lending. SBA doesn't require the 10% down. Traditional lending does. And it's a longer process, but it's spread over a longer period of time, and the interest rate is probably higher than a traditional lender. However, independent doctors are able to purchase both at this point because of that. So that's a real positive thing for a lot of dentists that want to own the real estate that they're operating in, and give them that additional ownership, of having actual bricks and mortar property. So I do see that a lot, and I see that a lot of buyers want that. So, there's a lot of practices out there that are practice only, and they lease their suite or where they're at. And I'll tell you, more than not, a dental practice that has a real estate included in the sale goes quicker.
Okay. I'm gonna throw a little exercise at you. So if you can give your top tips, just top one tip, for a dentist in different stages of the journey. So what would be your top tip for a dentist fresh out of school, just out of school? Top tip for him. Top tip for dentist mid journey. Top tip for dentist retirement.
Mid journey meaning, because there's dentists in mid journey that
They're
are working for
they're
somebody or
they're
that own their own
halfway.
practice.
Yeah, we're gonna assume that we'll just say that the the young one, the middle person is a private practice owner. He's middle of his career, maybe he's practiced for 20 years and he's got another 20 to go.
Well, for beginner,
Kind of a loaded question.
for a
but-
beginning dentist, the first thing that I would say for a beginning dentist, and I'm gonna, after I say this, Rachel, you can add whatever you want to add if you have something. For a beginning dentist that's getting ready to work for somebody, no matter who they work for, they're going to have to sign a contract. They're going to sign an associate agreement. And my biggest advice for those people is to hire somebody to review the associate agreement. Make sure that everything that they are okay with is in the contract, is something that they can live with, and that they are okay with. So before you start working for somebody, before you start, getting into that situation, find a reputable advisor that can review these contracts for you and make sure that they are on the up and up, and that you are protected as well.
Yeah, before
me
you
how to-
sign anything, everything is negotiable.
Yes, yeah. And because you're not going to come out of dental school buying a practice. It's just, you're going to work for somebody, and whoever you work for, doesn't matter if it's a DSO or if it's an independent doctor, both will be wanting you to sign a contract. Make sure you have somebody that's on your side that is reviewing those contracts.
Got it. So that's the entry level guy.
For the middle guy that owns a dental practice that is just chugging along, doing his thing, I think also hiring advisors to assist you with the running of your practice and your accounting, your tax services, helping you with that process. Because if you're trying to do everything on your own, your time in someone's mouth is more valuable than your time doing the bookkeeping in your practice. Do you need to see those things? Do you need to know where you're at financially? Do you need to know what you look like so you can make financial decisions on whether you want to grow, or you want to slow down, or you want to add somebody, you want to add another hygienist, you want to whatever? Get somebody that you can trust, that is an advisor, that is independent from your practice, to help you with those things. It's the best money that you're going to spend is to do that. So there's a lot of dental practices out there that try the DIY stuff. They want to do everything on their own, and then they find out, oh my gosh, I've been underpaying grocery receipts tax for like 2 years. Thank goodness that the New Mexico hasn't come after them, but it's not a good thing to figure that out once somebody's looking at your stuff and you've found out that you're underpaying your grocery receipts tax. Or we have actually found on tax returns from bigger CPA firms that we've taken over clients, people overpaying taxes, overpaying things, or there were deductions taken that needed to be taken, things like that. And so if you have an advisor that will help you through that process, at least you can feel comfortable in seeing your patients, because that's what's going to generate your money. You need to be generating income, and doing your own books in your practice doesn't do that. Seeing patients does.
Yeah, you go to dental school to learn how to do dentistry, not to learn how to be a small business owner.
Yeah.
I'm hearing a common theme from just the two, so I'm curious to know what the third one is. For the guy that's on his way out.
Are you curious, or do you know?
I am. Well, I don't know. I mean, I just noticed a
I'm
common
probably
theme. I'm wondering if
100%
it's
sure that Rachel knows what I'm going to say. Go
I
for it,
don't know what
Rachel.
you're
You
gonna
know what I'm going to say.
Don't wait until the last minute.
Yeah. Don't wait till the last minute, and make sure you have a team of people that can advise you on what strategy that you need to take. It's kind of funny because Cheryl Bergmeyer, who is in our office, is Eric's wife. She's also she's a certified financial planner. She had a couple people meetings yesterday with some people that were financial planning. And, you know, there's a process that I kind of could hear them because I'm in the other room, but there's a whole process on like what is asked of these people, you know, about their family life, what they want to leave people, how they want their retirement to look like, how much money that they're going to need to retire, what, you know, how is that going to be dispersed, where are they going to live, you know, those kind of things. You should be talking to your advisors about these things, and don't wait until the last minute, because it's important for you to know where you want to be, to start planning now.
Yes.
Don't wait till the last minute to ask for help in planning, and don't wait for the last minute to ask for help in starting your exit planning, because the earlier you start, the better position you'll be in no matter what.
So, Miss Rachel, I am curious about your year. How has this year shaped out for you? What has been different? What has really maybe surprised you? What are some things that you were curious about that now you're like, okay, yeah, that's something that I can clearly cement into my memory banks. Just talk about your year. What's something that really stood out to you as a takeaway?
That's a good question. I've been trying to think about this. For me, a lot of times the beginning of the year and the end of the year look different. At the end of the year, we get to lean on the last 9 or 10 or 11 months, you know, of the current year that we're in. But right now, being the first half of the year, we're really leaning more towards last year. We'll look at financial statements, you know, up to current, but you can't put a lot of weighting on the last 4 months, you know, of the current year. It's hard to annualize 4 months and make that into a whole year and expect that the end of the year is going to look just like the beginning. Really, the majority of your weighting goes towards the prior year. So really making sure that you finish the year strong. You know, like right now we're halfway through the year.
Mm-hmm.
Next year, we're going to look at the year that we're in and give it the majority of our weighting. So just because you're crushing it in the first half of the year, don't taper off. You know, like stay strong, make sure that you crush the end of the year so that you get full credit for all the hard work you did in the beginning of the year, because it might feel like, you know, a few weeks here or there, but it really does make a significant impact, you know, whenever we annualize 8, 9, 10, 11 months of the year, or we really point back to the whole prior year. So don't get, oh, I'm halfway through the year and I'm getting tired. You know, like really just stay strong and make sure that you finish the year and you get all the credit for the hard work you did in the beginning of the year.
It reminds me of not to cut you off, but like, you know, when you have the bar on the bench press and you're pushing that weight, you know, when it gets halfway up, you don't relax. You keep
Right.
pushing, and you know, maybe you need a spotter to help kind of pull you up a little bit, but you're still there putting in the sweat, right? You're still putting in the effort. That just occurred to me. But carry on.
Yeah. And if you're looking at, well, where am I this year versus where I was at this time last year? Oh, okay, I'm doing great. Or I'm only a little bit behind, or I'm a little bit ahead. But our goal for the current year isn't just to finish where we were last year, right? We want
Mhm.
last year plus at least 3% more,
Okay.
right? We want growth. We want top line growth, we want profitability growth, and whether you're new to this, whether you're in the middle of your journey, or whether you're getting close to the end, you know, the most recent years are what's going to matter the most. And if you get to show that you have that constant 3% plus growth every year, and you're not, well, this year looks good, and then, you know, and then the next year looks pretty good, and then, you know, or maybe, you know, I'm getting tired. I am approaching retirement. I want to spend more time doing this or that. Well, if you're on that slow decline, you're not going to get full credit for the work that you did a few years ago. So keep crushing it. You know, to get maximum value out of your practice, you want to see that constant and steady, at least 3% growth every year so that you do get max value out of your practice. And we want to see the revenue growth and we want to see profitability.
Okay. No, that's very important. And it makes me wonder if that's common practice. Or is it stuff that like everybody says, I should go to the gym. I'm gonna leave it off until January 1st. And then they go for 2 weeks. So maybe they tough it out for a month or two. Maybe even make it till March, but then they're like, yeah, I'm gonna cut down to 3 days a week. You know, I'm gonna take the foot, we had a really strong first quarter, and I think I can just, cruise for a while. I'm gonna just kind of ride this wave. And it's tempting, but it's a slippery slope, I would imagine.
I saw a quote, and I'm probably going to say it wrong, but you'll understand it anyway, where someone said, don't get upset about the results you didn't see from the work you didn't do. You know, you have no one to be upset about but yourself. So you can do it. Keep crushing it. If that's what you want, then keep crushing it. I'm
Okay.
trying to think of what else I think maybe stood out to me.
Yeah, take your time.
Personally, we have branched into new industries, and that has been really exciting for us. To value. We have our key dental clients that we love so much. That's our industry. Eric is a dental industry expert. We're so proud of that. But being able to branch out and help clients in other industries has been a lot of fun. And I think
Definitely
I'm gonna have
exciting.
to, Kelly, next time I come visit the office, we're gonna have to do like a little tour, I think.
So Rachel, I'm just curious, have you noticed, I know you can't obviously give away too much details, but have you noticed any trends when you're doing your valuations, your reporting and stuff like that? Are you noticing any common trends?
Everything is getting more expensive.
That's
You know,
interesting.
your expenses are going to go up. And, when we talked about a few minutes ago, wanting to see that at least 3% growth, if you're not
Yeah,
growing,
you're
like
dying.
everything is getting more expensive. So even if your top line stays the same, your expenses are going up and your profitability will go down.
Oh, that is huge. Big, big, big.
Especially in employee costs. Like Kelly talked about, hygienists and things, to be um to be a practice that somebody wants to work at, wants to stay at long term, to be competitive, um, employee costs are getting more expensive, more benefits and things like that. So the only way that you can really manage um, that common size percent range, where we like to see
Mhm.
expenses of your employees as a percent of your revenue, the only way to keep that in line is if your expenses go up, your revenue has to go up. So not only, again, trying to push and grow your revenue, but make sure that every little thing you are trying to keep your expenses in line. You know,
Mhm.
don't get lax on certain things and let it go, because as even just that one line, that employee cost line is going to grow. If you can keep everything else in check, it'll help overall. It really will. Small things do add up. So we know for sure everything will get more expensive, and just be mindful of that.
Yeah, I think what you said there was huge, and um, it's so obvious, but it's not something that most people probably like to think about. It's kind of uncomfortable to look at that and really confront the I don't know what I would want to call it, but just that uncomfortable truth of if you're not growing, you're dying. It's not a fun thought, but the reward is so worth it. If you can, it's just like going to the gym. I mean, it's not pleasant to build muscle. It doesn't feel good necessarily. It kind of does if you can learn to love the discipline. But, it's not always, that's what makes most people quit, is they just like, it's too uncomfortable. I don't want to do it. It's the same thing with uh with growing a business. You've got to stay on top of the devil's in the
But
details.
but if you're not selling, if you're not getting out, then why work really hard for really little? You know, like if you can manage expenses, if you can make sure that you are, focused growth, then you can work really hard and reap the reward of that. But if you're working really hard and you're not paying attention to your expenses, then what are you working for?
You're just spinning your wheels,
Yeah.
or
So
you're in a
it's
rut.
just,
You're just digging yourself into a rut almost.
yeah, and like I said, you go to dental school to learn dentistry, maybe not so much to learn how to be a small business owner. So if you do have a partner in your accountant, in your tax advisor, then they can help you make sure that you're getting the most. They can help you looking at your books. They can help you looking at growth and trends year over year. They can help you manage your own practice to make sure you're not just spinning your wheels.
Absolutely. No, I think you hit the nail on the head. And I'm gonna just, is there anything else to share about this year before I share my top tip?
Nope, I'm ready to hear yours.
Okay. Well, unsurprisingly, it's not walk the path alone. It's to hire, not be afraid to ask for help, to realize there's people out there that specialize in exactly what you're going to be going through. So that's kind of like that actually just kind of occurred to me as you guys were talking about it, because it kept coming up over and over again. And I could talk about some of the other things that I've picked up over our other episodes. Start before you're ready. That's obviously, you start before you need to, whatever it is. Another one though was, it's not always about money. That was something that I had to go, oh, okay. It's not always about money, just because there's a practice on the market for a certain amount of money, and somebody can afford it. It doesn't mean that that's going to be a smooth transition. There has to be synergy in these relationships. And I guess the other thing would be, just sort of as a joke, just understanding that nothing is ever, like, it always depends, as we say. There's always circumstances that could have a different outcome, but it just depends. So
Mm.
those are some of my takeaways. We're still mid-year, so I don't
And
think
that's
that they're going to
funny too,
change
Josh, that you say that,
drastically.
because
But
that's like the theme of every single one of our podcasts, I think. It
yeah,
depends.
Yeah,
it depends.
Hire an advisor.
don't wait till the last minute.
Don't wait till the last minute.
Yeah, no, I mean it's
Well, I
the
mean,
truth.
I don't want to like quote the Bible in this, but I don't want to go there.
No, please. I was
But
thinking of something in the Bible
but
too. I
something in
want
the
to hear
Bible,
yours.
repetitiveness, there's, if you look at the Bible, I mean, the Bible was written very long time ago. There
Mhm.
are stories in the Bible that are in line with one another, and there's repetitiveness in everything in there. So I think when we talk about like, don't wait till the last minute, get your advisors in line, do all these things, and we keep saying it, hopefully it'll help someone to hear it enough times to know, like, to do it. This is what we need to do, because these are the things that I hear continuously.
Mm.
So I think that that is not ever going to change. But at least maybe we can give our listeners some information outside of there also, so that we can help them in making that move, and not waiting till the last minute, and
Yeah,
hiring somebody to help them. And
yeah.
Yeah, and we know a few people.
we do know a few people. And I thought, Rachel, that was so great that you said, that you mentioned that we're doing valuations on other types of businesses. I do think that it's kind of a neat thing. We've actually, we're starting to develop some good relationships with other people in these other industries too. So we do have people, like if somebody's randomly listening to this that owns a business that's not necessarily dental practice, you know,
That's okay.
we can help you with that too. So,
Yeah, because we also are a small business and we also are looking for more than 3% growth every year.
yes,
So
there's a
we're
lot of
learning new things
similarities.
and we're growing too. That's right.
Yeah,